Good morning, fellow YouTubers, and particularly my fellow Juteros. I wanted to introduce you to my lovely wife, Susie. Susie, say hello.
Hi.
We are in line. We live in South Pasadena, California, so we're in line at USC Medical Campus for my wife, who works on the front lines to get some COVID-19 testing. So big line of cars, probably another hour of sitting in the car. I guess I wanted to just, without any preparation and springing this on my wife, Susie, tell everyone a little bit about your jiu-jitsu experience, and kind of where you're at in your training right now.
Well, prior to this COVID-19 pandemic, I was training with my husband at Hadra Machado in Pasadena as well. White belt currently, trained for about 6 months, an average of 1 to anywhere of 2 to 4 days a week. It's been fun. I have a history as a kid of taking taekwondo classes, so going back into jiu-jitsu or starting jiu-jitsu was very welcoming and easy and very enjoyable. Now we have mats at home that we had our first roll session, I guess, yesterday, which was very nice. It reminded me how much I missed it.
So 6 months, white belt. I know we've been together for a long time now, 14 years, and I restarted kind of my jiu-jitsu journey in 2015, and I definitely had wanted you to join me in the training. So what would you say was your biggest challenge or obstacle to starting training? What went through your mind of why you didn't want to train?
I think it was more of a comfort level, being exposed to being around a lot of men, because as we know, the sport is heavily dominated by men. It did help that my husband was at this particular school, and I was able to meet everybody that he got along with and get to see all the positive personalities. I did, before joining this school, this dojo, try a couple of other campuses, but I didn't feel the same type of family environment and welcoming environment that I do now.
Yeah, starting jiu-jitsu really for anyone, it can be really, I guess, scary and nerve-wracking. It's it is a combat sport, and then particularly for women, you're right, it is predominantly men. So as a woman in the jiu-jitsu class and as a white belt, maybe just talk a little bit about your experience in training and kind of what you've learned about others and what you've learned about yourself.
I've definitely learned about myself that I could go a little bit further than my own limitations. I've noticed that at the very beginning of class or of the training months, I would hold back a lot, either because I was scared or almost embarrassed of not knowing what I was doing or not knowing of I guess the correctiveness of my skills or the moves that I was doing. But in jiu-jitsu, as we know, repetitiveness definitely helps. The more you're exposed, the more you do it, the more comfortable you are, the better you get. So again, being consistent, going in, just leaving all embarrassment at the door, because that's also another thing for us women. You go in there, you're nervous about being there without makeup, you sometimes just have to get over that fear, that vulnerability that puts you out there. Being at the school with the guys also, because it's mainly guys working out, never once did anybody make me feel nervous or embarrassed about my look. Because the important thing about being there is that you're there to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That there'd be a nervousness, before going into the class, and you know, like, it's always so funny, like, and even though I've been doing it for so long, there's just things that are challenging for me, either physically or technically, and that's kind of part of the journey, right? You know, is being able to go beyond your limits, find new comfort zones, really test those comfort zones, and really kind of challenge yourself. And that's really where a lot of that growth comes from, and why jiu-jitsu is so humbling, because it's like, not to say that other martial arts or combat arts, that you gain mastery faster, but you know, it's always like, if you go into a boxing gym and you're like, oh, I want to spar with someone who has, you know, 20 years experience. Yeah, that person with 20 years of experience is gonna clock you, and we'll probably do it in a way where that person's not getting injured. So, you know, there's just something to be said about that experience and that repetition and growth that you learn over time. But yeah, no, it's a super humbling experience, going into jiu-jitsu. Now, I know our gym has a few other girls that train there. What has been your experience training with them, training with women versus the men at the gym?
Well, it definitely helps build a different type of friendship with them. They're also very welcoming. There's no cattiness whatsoever. They're just there to help encourage you and help teach you new things and reinforce any lessons on difficult moves that you might be struggling with, which is really nice. I feel like that's very hard to find outside of jiu-jitsu. And it's also encouraging to see women be part of the school that are at higher belt levels. We have 2 brown belts now, a purple belt as well that competes quite frequently and is really good. I mean, all the women are good there. And I've recently made a new white belt friend, which I hope that friendship continues to go through, and that we help encourage each other to grow in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's really good that we have kind of a little bit of a distribution, considering that there's usually not as many you know, women at the jiu-jitsu gyms, and it's nice to have like someone that's kind of at your level, and because that's, you know, kind of like in some ways less intimidating than going with someone who is like way better than you, but it's also good to go with people way better than you, because they usually are really good about like coaching you, teaching you, giving you tips, where people, you know, at your own level, they may want to give you tips, but they, you know, those tips may not be that valuable. But you know, it's all part of that journey. So yeah, so we're gonna we have the Dolomure flexi roll mats at home. We had our first little training session yesterday, just easing into it because we haven't really been working out during this whole quarantine.
Gotta limber up again.
Yeah, limber up, get some flexibility back, get some strength back, get some cardio back. Gosh, cardio is gonna take a while. But you know, we focused on a little bit of just, you know, refresher on positional control, side control, and the mount. We worked on arm bars from the mount, and you know, just some kind of, you know, key elements to try to keep it controlled during the transition. We did a little bit of cardiovascular kind of round training, interval training, passing the guard, walk around pass, Toriando type of pass. And then followed into knee on belly, transition knee on belly control to lapel and hip control, and then kind of transition to spinning arm bar, or transition to side control from knee on belly, or transition to the baseball choke. So just kind of trying to show some connections between the movements, and how, you know, jiu-jitsu really can be a total of moves. Like, you know, there's an encyclopedia. This is the armbar. This is the armbar from this position. This is the armbar from that position. But jiu-jitsu is really so much about the fluidity between positions, and really, you know, kind of that, you know, it's not the cliches. It's not just words. It's not just sentences. It's really learning to be able to write a whole story. And that's kind of part of the excitement of the jiu-jitsu journey. So, well, thanks everyone for listening. You know, we will be back and tell you a little bit more about our jiu-jitsu journey. I have a lisp today. Susie, anything else in closing?
No, just keep training.
Yeah, keep training and stay safe.